Hello and welcome again. Here we are. Can you believe it? We're back. We never say die. Bicho malo nunca muere. We're here because this is a show specifically designed for the super intelligent, very high levels. But we welcome other levels as well, so they realize that how far they need to go to improve their English. And it's called the Vaughn All-Stars. Estrellas del Firmamento. Baugan. Yes, these are members of the Vaughn Firmament. And they are fermenting on my left and on my right. Fermentación lingüística.
I've been fermenting all week, actually.
Really? You must be very alcoholic by now. All right, but nevertheless, welcome, Julia.
Thank you.
It's good to have you. My God, I have Julia sitting on my right, on the right hand of the Father. Yeah. Yeah, be careful on my right. My right hand is much more agile than my left. Okay.
So I'm okay then.
You don't need to worry, Richard. You don't need to worry. All right. And we can play footsie. Julie and I can play footsie and you won't even realize
I won't.
All right. Because we know how to, especially Julia.
I hope you know your left from your right.
we know how to multitask. How to do two things. Mm-hmm. Multitask, Richard, means to do two things at the same time.
It does.
And another expression for same time is simultaneously.
Yep.
All right. Mm-hmm. We're teaching him English. Okay?
We are, yeah.
Thank you.
We're expanding his culture, like culture vultures, right? Buitres culturales. But nevertheless, last week, ladies and gentlemen, we continued this long saga of my trip 47 years ago, to Israel and back from Spain with 4 friends. But we abandoned each other along the way. But still, all 5 of us are together. Mm-hmm. All 5 of us. Fijaos en la pronunciación. Los 5 seguimos juntos. The 5 of us were still together. 5 of us. Va. The 5 of us were still together. Good. 4 Americans and 1 Spaniard.
Are you still friends?
Yeah. Well, I think one is gone now.
Mm.
What, back to Greece or?
No, gone. He's
gone. Okay.
In purgatory, probably.
Okay.
Right now.
Lucky
but no, but he already put in his application for heaven.
Okay.
And I think the Office of Processing and Applications will accept his application to go to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
But, I mean, he's a good guy. But like me, he needs to spend a few millennia in purgatory. So I imagine that when I go to heaven, St. Peter said, hey, man, yeah, you're okay, but I think you need to spend a little bit of time in purgatory.
Borderline case.
Yeah, and so I'll spend a few millennia in purgatory. And then I'll be assigned a cloud and a harp, and I can play my harp. Yeah, but the thing is in purgatory, I met a guy named Sam the Clam, and he was a clam. And he told me a story about his good friend Larry the Lobster. Yeah. The Larry the Lobster and Sam the Clam lived at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now ask me if Sam the Clam went to heaven.
Did Sam the Clam went to heaven? Go. Gee.
She's nervous sitting on my right. Did Sam
the Clam go to heaven?
No, he didn't. He went to hell. Ask me if Larry the Lobster went to hell too.
Did Larry the Lobster go to hell too?
No, he didn't. Larry the Lobster went to heaven.
Huh?
Ask me what Larry the Lobster did in heaven.
What did Larry the Lobster do in heaven?
Well, he was assigned to cloud number 3,212 and given a harp. And he was on the harp playing. And he was bored.
Despite being a lobster.
Yeah, but despite being a lobster.
He was a mean harp player.
He was a harp player.
Playing the harp with 2 fingers.
Well, and ask me if Larry Lobster got bored playing his harp.
Did Larry the Lobster get bored playing the harp?
Yes, he did. Ask me what he decided to do.
What did he decide to do?
He decided to go down and visit his good friend Sam the Clam. Ask me if he needed to ask permission.
Did he need to ask permission?
Yes, he needed to ask permission. Yes, he needed to ask permission. And ask me who he went to ask permission to go to hell.
Who did he go to ask permission to go to hell?
Well, he went to St. Peter and asked me how St. Peter replied.
How did St. Peter reply?
Well, initially he was against the idea, but asked me if Larry Lobster insisted.
Did Larry the Lobster insist?
Yes, he did.
Does St. Peter speak lobster?
No, but lobsters speak English in heaven.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's convenient.
Well, they are polyglots. When you go to heaven, you speak all languages. Okay. All right. In fact, there's one single language that everybody understands. And so it's Peterese. So, and so finally he asked me if St. Peter finally gave in.
Did St. Peter finally give in?
Yes, he did. So asked me what he told Larry Lobster to do.
What did St. Peter tell Larry the Lobster to do?
Well, he told him he could get onto the elevator or the lift and go down to the -10. And that was the floor where his good friend Sam the Clam lived. And he said, by the way, Larry, I will ask him if he gave Larry some conditions.
Did he give Larry some conditions?
Yes, he did. Ask him what conditions he imposed on Larry the Lobster.
What conditions did St. Peter impose on Larry the Lobster?
He imposed 2 conditions. 1, he had to be back before midnight. And 2nd, not to forget his harp. Because Larry had his harp. Su arpa. All right, so asked me if Larry located Sam the Clam.
Did Larry locate Sam the Clam?
Yes, he did. Asked him if he had a good time with Sam during the afternoon and evening.
Did he have a good time with Sam the Clam in the afternoon and evening?
Yes, he did. Asked me if he lost track of the time.
Did he lose track of the time?
Yes, he did. Asked me if he realized in time to get back.
Did he realize in time to get back?
Yes, he did. Just in time. Ask him if he managed to get back just in time.
Did he manage to get back just in time?
In fact, he got back to the pearly gates of heaven 1 minute before midnight.
Okay.
Asked me if he was panting.
Was he panting?
Yes. Asked me if St. Peter was there waiting for him.
Was St. Peter there waiting for him?
Yes, he was. Asked me what St. Peter said to Larry.
What did Larry?
Larry the Lobster, yeah.
What did St. Peter say to Larry?
He said, well, you made it back just in time. But by the way, Larry, where's your harp? And Larry asked me what Larry said.
What did Larry say?
He didn't say anything. Asked me what he did.
What did he do?
He didn't say. He sang something. Asked me what he sang.
What did he sing?
He sang, I left my harp in Sam Clam's disco. High on a hill. All right. I forgot that Sam
It's like Cinderella all over.
All right. Now, we were not supposed to talk about heaven and hell.
No, I want to know more about the clam dude.
Yeah, Sam the Clam's the interesting one here.
Exactly.
Well, I forgot to tell you that Sam the Clam, after a few months in hell, he managed to set up and operate a discotheque.
Right.
So
that sounds like much more fun than sitting on a cloud playing a harp.
Of course. Well, you know, the other story, I knew a guy. He came back from death, and he told me. I mean, he died. Asked me if he went to heaven.
Did he go to heaven?
Yes, he did. Yeah, asked me if he was also assigned to a cloud.
Was he also assigned to a cloud?
Yes, he was sitting on a cloud playing a harp. Well, he wasn't playing a harp. Asked me what he was playing.
What was he playing?
He was playing a lyre. Now, ask me if lyre means mentiroso.
Does lyre mean mentiroso?
Depending on the spelling, yes. Mm-hmm. Ask me what it means if it's spelled with a Y.
What does it mean if it's spelled with a Y?
It means una lida. All right. Yeah. A lyre. So he was playing a lyre on the cloud. Asked me if he noticed something nearby.
Did he notice something nearby?
Yes, he did. Asked me what he noticed.
Can I tell?
Ah, you know the story.
Yes, he noticed Larry the Lobster playing the harp.
This is a different guy. No, this is a different man.
So who did he notice?
He noticed a cloud nearby, a little bit lower, so he had a good view. He noticed a man and a woman having a very good time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can do that sort of thing in heaven then?
Well, wait a minute. He just noticed don't jump to conclusions.
See, it's the seed. It's the seed.
Don't jump to conclusions. He saw a cloud, and he saw a man and a woman having a good time.
Okay.
Asked me if he spent a lot of time watching them.
Did he spend a lot of time watching them?
Yes, he did. Asked me if he made mistakes with his lyre.
Did he make mistakes with his lyre?
Yes. Okay. But asked me if he went to see St. Peter.
Did he go to see St. Peter?
Yes, he did. Yeah. Asked me what he said to St. Peter.
What did he say to St. Peter?
Well, he asked St. Peter, listen, I saw a cloud nearby. He said, look, playing the lyre is fine, but really, I saw a cloud not far away, and there was a guy having a really good time. Well, 2 people having a wonderful time together. And really, I mean, lyre playing is fine, and Ask me what St. Peter replied.
What did St. Peter reply?
Well, St. Peter was a bit
Taken aback.
Perplexed, because he said, I can't figure that out. I can't figure that out. So ask me what the man did.
What did the man do?
Well, the man followed St. Peter's instructions and went back to the cloud and continued playing his lyre. Ask me what happened after that.
What happened after that?
Well, then he continued singing. He started to sing the man and the woman again, having a good time. And so he went back to St. Peter. Ask me what St. Peter said this time.
What did St. Peter say this time?
Well, St. Peter listened to the man's explanation. And finally he said, I know what that is. Ask me what St. Peter told him it was.
What did St. Peter tell him it was?
St. Peter told him that was hell. That he was seeing hell in action.
Uh-huh.
And ask me what the man replied.
What did the man reply?
He said, well, that's what I want.
I'll have some of that.
And ask me what St. Peter said, given this type of statement.
What did St. Peter say given that type of statement?
Well, he said, you don't want hell. I guarantee you don't want hell. And ask me what the man replied.
What did the man reply?
The man replied, well, that's what I want and I insist. Ask me if St. Peter finally gave in.
Did St. Peter finally give in?
Yes, he did. So ask me what instructions St. Peter gave him.
What instructions did St. Peter give him?
He told him he needed to go to the elevator or the lift, push button 11, not 10.
11?
Yeah.
Wow, that's past
and to
Sam
go down,
the Clam.
Yeah, Sam Clam's disco. And to go down to hell. And so ask me if the man went down to hell.
Did the man go down to hell?
Yes, he did. Ask me what happened when the elevator doors opened.
What happened when the elevator doors opened?
Well, he saw a person in front of him. Ask me who he saw in front of him.
Who did he see in front of him?
His mother.
Lucifer.
Oh.
Lucifer.
The devil. Beelzebub? No, Lucifer.
Okay.
Yeah. And ask me what Lucifer said to the man.
What did Lucifer say to the man?
The Lucifer said, welcome to hell. Ask me what else he said.
What else did he say?
Well, he gave him a choice. Ask me what choice Lucifer gave the man.
What choice did Lucifer give the man?
Could you say it again?
Yes, I can. What choice did Lucifer give the man?
All right, good. I understood give for the man. He gave him the choice of 2 doors. Ask me if the man checked behind door number 1.
Did he check behind door number 1?
Yes, he did. Ask me what he saw.
What did he see?
He saw people burning and screaming with pain. And so he said, no, I don't want this. This is not what I saw. Ask me what he saw behind door number 2.
What did he see behind door number 2?
He saw people encased in ice, freezing and screaming. Ask me what he said to Lucifer.
What did he say to Lucifer?
He said, listen, if you don't mind, do I still have time to go back to heaven? Ask me, and he insisted on going back to heaven. Ask me if Lucifer finally gave in.
Did Lucifer finally give in?
Yes, Lucifer finally gave in and allowed him to go back up to heaven. Yeah, ask me if St. Peter was still there when he got back.
Was St. Peter still there when he got back?
Yeah, he was. And ask me what St. Peter said.
What did St. Peter say?
St. Peter said, well, how was hell? Why are you back? And ask me what the man replied.
What did the man reply?
He said, well, listen, what I saw in hell is not what I saw on the cloud. And asked me if the man explained what he saw down on the minus 11 floor.
Did he explain what he saw on floor minus 11?
Yes, he did. And then he explained again to St. Peter what he saw on the cloud. Mm-hmm. And asked me what finally St. Peter said.
What did St. Peter finally say?
He said, well, you have to go back down and speak to Lucifer, and Lucifer will tell you what happened on that cloud. Ask me what Lucifer finally explained.
What did Lucifer finally explain?
Well, you see, the man went back down to hell, and he said, well, listen, these 2 doors are not what I saw. And Lucifer asked me if Lucifer scratched his head.
Did Lucifer scratch his head?
Yes. Ask me why.
Why? Why did he scratch his head?
Because he couldn't figure out what was going on that cloud. Asked me if he finally realized what it was.
Did he finally realize what it was?
Yes, he did. And asked me what his final conclusion was.
What was his final conclusion?
Well, he looked at the man and said, aha, of course, now I get it. Oh, of course, I have forgotten. That's our public relations department. All right. All right. It's typical of public relations.
Nothing to do with the reality. Yeah?
Nope.
True. Nothing. Communication and public relations. That's our job that Eva does here. People frolicking on a cloud. All right, good. But let's get back to the show, because the last thing we know from last week, I was with 4 other people and we were traveling in early January, the first days of January 1973, in the winter, cold as a witch's tit, and we were traveling.
And that's cold.
Yeah.
Wouldn't know.
Me neither, thank God. But in any case, we took a normal bus from Igumenitsu on the coast, on the western coast, not far from Corfu and from Ithaca. We took it to Ionina. Yes, in the interior, in the mountains. Now, ask me what the first thing was we did in Ionina.
What was the first thing that you did in Ionina?
Well, what do you think?
Eat.
Yeah, we'll look for a place. We're always hungry. When you backpack in the winter in this way, you're always hungry. And so ask me if we were looking at the different restaurant windows.
Were you looking at the different restaurant windows?
Yes, but my Greek is not very good. And asked me if we finally found a place.
Did you finally find a place?
Well, we decided on a place, but we didn't go in. Asked me why we didn't go in.
Why didn't you go in?
Because we were interrupted. Asked me who interrupted us.
Who interrupted you?
Well, a voice, a very, very clear, very assertive male voice from behind us interrupted us. A man. Asked me what he said.
What did he say?
He said in English, "You don't want to eat there." And we turned and asked me who it was.
Who was it?
It was Nick the Greek. This is true. His name was Nick. We call him Nick the Greek, but his name was Nick. And asked me what he told us to do.
What did he tell you to do?
He said, "You need to come with me and I'll show you the place."
Okay.
And asked me if he took us to a nice place.
Did he take you to a nice place?
Well, he took us to a restaurant. It was good. But asked me what I noticed about that restaurant.
What did you notice about that restaurant?
Well, this was my first time in Greece in my life. And I was entering Greece in the least touristic area imaginable. Mm-hmm. In the middle of the mountains in western Greece, not too far from the border with Albania, which at that time was very communist, with Hoxha was the dictator, and it was a Maoist regime. And so we went there, and in the Greek restaurants at that time, to order, you went into the kitchen and looked at what they were cooking.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. It was cool. And so it looked delicious, some of the things. Of course, some of them were too aromatic for me. Yeah. I don't like aromatic food. As you move east, it gets more aromatic. But I chose some things that was delicious. And tell Julie to ask me if Nick sat down and had lunch with us.
Did Nick sit down and have lunch with them?
Ask me.
Ask him if Nick sat down and had lunch with them.
Did Nick sit down with you guys and had lunch?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sat down with us and had lunch. Well, I think it was dinner. It was the evening. Yeah. Ask me tell Richard to ask me if we spent much time with Nick.
Ask Richard if they spent much time with Nick.
Did you spend much time with Nick?
Let's see. It was probably around 7 p.m. at that time. And I think by the time we said goodbye to Nick, it was 4 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nick went wild.
No, we went wild. Well, I didn't. I had to keep control of the group, but the rest of the people went wild. And we ended up, well, I'll get to that story. I think we'll have time. All right. But nevertheless, tell Julie to ask me how long we stayed in that restaurant.
Ask Richard how long they stayed in that restaurant. How
long did you stay in the restaurant?
We stayed there for about 2 hours, longer than expected. Now tell Richard, ask me why we stayed there longer than expected.
Ask him why they stayed there longer than expected.
Why did you stay there longer than expected?
We stayed there because a group of young men, boys, basically, Greek boys, were sitting at another table and sending bottles of Greek wine to our table for free. Now tell Julie to ask me why they were sending free bottles of wine to our table.
Ask Richard why they were sending free bottles of wine to their table.
Why were they sending free bottles of wine to your table?
Because the 2 girls traveling with us were very attractive. And so they would, yeah. And so tell Richard to ask me what we did in return.
Ask him what they did in return.
What did you do in return?
We ordered bottles for them as well. Now tell Julie to ask me if they were surprised by our generosity.
Ask Richard if they were surprised by their generosity.
Were they surprised by your generosity?
Yes, they were. So much so. How do you say in Spanish? How do you say in English? Tanto así.
So much so.
So much so that they decided to invite us to a nightclub. Tell Richard to ask me where the nightclub was located.
Ask him where the nightclub was located.
Where was the nightclub located?
On that lake.
On the lake.
No, at the lake, and along the shores,
lakeside.
along the shore of the lake, which was about 5 kilometers outside of Jonina. So you can imagine it was nighttime. Clear night. Not full moon maybe, but it was illuminated. And we went out in 2 cars with Nick and the Greek boys.
That's a really cool band name, Nick and the Greek Boys.
We went out there to this nightclub, tell Julie to ask me if we danced through the night.
Ask Richard if they danced through the night.
Did you dance through the night?
Well, we danced up to about 3:30 in the morning. Not bad. From about 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, I don't remember. Tell Richard to ask me who paid for that.
Ask him who paid for that.
Who paid for that?
One of the boys.
Wow.
Yeah, tell Julie to ask me what Nick told me about that boy.
Ask Richard what Nick told him about that boy.
What did Nick tell you about the boy?
He told me that the boy spent a full week's salary in that nightclub for us.
Aww.
Yeah.
They must have been very attractive women traveling with you.
Well, tell Richard to ask me if the boy got
The girl.
a special award.
Ask Richard if the boy got a special reward.
Did the boy get a special reward?
Unless it was in the bathroom, no. He didn't, because the girls went back with us.
Okay.
All right, good. Now, tell Julie to ask me if we slept well that night.
Ask Richard if they slept well that night.
Did you sleep well that night?
Yes and no. Tell Richard to ask me what I mean by yes and no.
Ask him what he means by yes and no.
What do you mean by yes and no?
Okay, our lodging or our accommodation, singular in English, británico. All right, in America we say accommodations, was in a very simple pension, and there were 2 double beds for 5 people. And we pushed them together and got under the covers together.
Right. With the Greek boys or?
No, the Greek
with
boys.
Nick?
Just the 5 of them.
Okay.
No, Nick, no.
The 5 of you.
Tell Julie to ask me why we all slept together, body to body.
Ask Richard why they all slept together, body to body.
Why did you all sleep together body to body?
Because the temperature in that room was about 5 degrees. It was freezing cold. And so we needed the body heat.
To keep warm.
To keep warm. Yeah. And so tell Julie to ask me what we did the following day.
Ask Richard what they did the following day.
What did you do the following day?
We caught a bus. All right. Yeah. Tell Richard to ask me where we went from there.
Well, ask Richard where they went from there.
Where did you go from there?
We went to a mountain village. Now tell Julie to ask me if I still remember the name of that village.
Ask Richard if he still remembers the name of that village.
Do you still remember the name of that village?
Yes, I do. Ask me what it was called.
What was it called?
Metzoven. I found it here it says Metzovo, but we said Metzoven. Ask me what the population was of that town.
What was the population of that town?
Probably 500 people.
Okay.
Yeah. Now tell Julie, ask me if we found a place to stay.
Ask Richard if he found a place to stay.
Did you find a place to stay?
Yes, we did. Yeah. Ask me how we found a place to stay.
How did you
stay?
How did you find a place to stay?
Well, we saw a person walking down the street, and we made the sign of sleeping. And asked me what that man did.
What did that man do?
He invited us to his house.
Oh.
Yeah. So we slept in his house.
Right.
Ask me what I remember about his house.
What do you remember about his house?
I just remember the bathroom. Mostly.
Why?
Because the bathroom was just a hole.
Oh.
Okay.
That was all. But he's a very nice man. And tell Julie to ask me if we were able to communicate with the Greek family, the father, the mother, and I think 2 children.
Ask Richard if they were able to communicate with the Greek family.
Were you able to communicate with the Greek family?
The Spanish guy with a Greek-Spanish dictionary was able to rudimentarily communicate.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Was the hole in the wall or in the ground?
In the ground.
In the ground.
In the ground. Yeah. And they were very, very nice. And of course, we paid them. Of course, they need the money. Mm-hmm. It was very good for them, but it was a very nice experience. Ask me tell Richard, ask me if we had a problem in the morning.
Ask him if they had a problem in the morning.
Did you have a problem in the morning?
Yes, we did. Tell Julie, ask me what our problem was.
Ask Richard what their problem was.
What was your problem?
We were hungry. What do you think?
You're always hungry.
Yeah. Tell Richard to ask me if we found a place to eat in the village.
Ask him if they found a place to eat in the village.
Did you find a place to eat in the village?
No, we didn't, but something interesting happened because of this. Now, we're not going to finish today, but next weekend we'll find out how we solved my hunger problem or our hunger problem. See you next week, ladies and gentlemen.
Aprendiendo, descubriendo, enseñando, compartiendo. Este verano no te olvides de tu inglés.
You're listening to Vaughn Radio.